Hey, welcome back to Rip Your Records. My name is Luke, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Drake album, Scorpion. Scorpion is the latest release from rapper, singer, songwriter, and Instagram caption inspiration, Drake. Drake has had a very mixed discography in my opinion, ranging from the incredibly boring and dull More Life to, in my opinion, the pinnacle of his creation, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. I've just always been very unenthused about every Drake release, and this was no exception. He consistently produces mediocre music which somehow shoots to the top of the charts, stealing spots from way better artists who actually write their own music. But anyways, earlier this year, Drake released two singles, God's Plan and Nice for What, both of which I thought at first were mediocre, now I think are pretty good, and are actually some of the better tracks off of the album. Both of the tracks are very upbeat and fun, and are a lot more listenable than most of this album ended up being. More recently, he had beef with Pusha T, which, while some of it was interesting, just got kinda awkward after Pusha T accused Drake of having a son, something that I didn't know about but apparently was common knowledge to a lot of people. Drake then released a follow-up track to Pusha T called I'm Upset, which was, upsetting. Needless to say, it kind of killed my hope for Scorpion, but I still went into this record with an open mind, open ears, like I always do. I was hoping that the album would stick more to the upbeat and fun style of the first two singles, but what we got instead was an hour and a half. Yeah, you heard me, an hour and a half. 25 songs of wishing that it was just over soon. It's almost like Drake knew how boring the first two tracks were. He would constantly say things like, yo, I'm gonna go off, but later. It picks up slightly on the third track, Elevate, and continues that momentum with God's Plan and Emotionless, but once it reaches I'm Upset, it just loses all of its momentum again. The track's somehow worse on the album than it was as a single. I just don't understand how someone like Drake, with as much production value and songwriters and just all of these resources that he has behind him, how he can't just make consistently entertaining and fun music. For 4 straight tracks, I just sat there waiting for the R&B section of the album to get there because I was so bored. The song Can't Take a Joke is especially bad in my opinion. So bad I can't even remember how it goes or pretty much anything about it. In my notes, I just wrote bad. There's a song with a Jay-Z feature, but I feel like the feature could have been anybody because it was so forgettable and pointless. The same goes for nearly every feature on this project, except for one that I'll get to later. The song Is There More is actually a much better, much more emotional track. It really actually kind of pulled at my heartstrings and felt like it was pulling Drake's too, which was a welcome change. The song Summer Games stands out as well, especially Nice for What, which I gotta say is the best song of this entire album, as much as it does get played on the radio too much. But there is one song that I have to talk about, because it is so goddamn awful that I have to call it out. That song is Ratchet Happy Birthday. Oh my god. It's like Drake's attempt at sounding like The Weeknd, except The Weeknd has a million songs just like this, and they're all so much better. Halfway through the song, he just goes, brah! And it's just jarring. It's like a jump scare in an album. I've never been jump scared by music before, but Drake somehow fucking did that. I cannot stomach this song, and I don't recommend you put yourself through it either. However, I do have another good track to talk about, and it's the feature that I mentioned earlier, and it features none other than the late great Michael Jackson, which is extremely unexpected. It's called Don't Matter to Me, and it's eerie and vibey, and it's just fun to listen to. Drake's parts kind of dip, but Michael Jackson definitely holds his own. I also feel like the outro track is good, with Drake talking about his son head on, with lyrics talking about how he has to accept that it's not a maybe, that shit is set in stone. While I don't agree with Drake's parenting methods, it's definitely a formidable track, and definitely a nice change of pace for the album. Overall, Scorpion is just another disappointing Drake project. I somehow feel like he's never going to go back to how he was on If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. I feel like that era of Drake is just gone and over, and I feel every time he releases an album, it's going to be more of the same. This album has a few standout tracks, but most of it is just boring and bland and overplayed, and I'm gonna be sick of it in 2 days. I'm feeling a solid 4 on this album. She said, "Do you like this album?" I tell her only partly. I only like 4 or 5 songs. I'm sorry.